And it's me, it's Alan. Again, another targeted individual here. And I was reading a thing just yesterday about um, more people, and predominantly more um, women, but it can affect men and women, having what is known since the 90s as as broken heart syndrome. There's a Japanese term for it. There was a lady in Japan who it's got an official name named after some octopus trap or some weird name, but there's a different Japanese name for it, but we just call it broken heart syndrome. Um, and what happened is that they had named it after, this trap, octopus trap or something, but in Japan, they saw more women um, getting diagnosed with this left side pain that was a chronic pain. And it can happen to guys too. But especially in the 90s and 2000s, more people have been coming forward, and especially during COVID. Whether what to make of it, whether it's who knows. It's the idea that psychologically, psychologists will try to say and spin, and some might be true. I don't want to put everything in just as wrong as we know it's wrong to put everything in a psychological box. So it'd be just as wrong for us as target individuals to say everything is part of the TI program and not do a little Occam's razor in there and throw, well, some is psychological, some is normal, you know, pains that you'd go through and just being getting older. But when you're a TI with V2K, and it's, I mean, you're just being screwed with. And half the time your handlers are just saying, just what are we going to do with you? Or this sucks, or he ain't going to go. I mean, they go off script. I mean, when you've been part of this thing for years, they do their scripts and they do, the little ringing or a firecracker sound and, or the electrical little jabs that you get. But sometimes they're just like, this sucks and he won't go. And they'll get back on script. Oh, he knows, or he doesn't know, or, they're just sometimes bored. They just wanted to get hurry. Anyway, I'm going off. Um, but anyway, in Japan and in the United States, women have been diagnosed as having broken heart, and women and men diagnosed, like saying, "Well, have you suffered a psychological devastation, like a death of a friend, a loved one, loss of a job, some big traumatic something hit you?" And then what happens is they get this side pain, like I had since I was 16, 17. And you'll get this, and what I now know because of V2K, that it's the whole target individual. It was directed energy weapon. I was a guinea pig, still am a guinea pig. I still have V2K. But I know that I'm just being a guinea pig for it. And I've noticed that, man, I was this for a long time. I thought it was just because of the stress of going through faith and doubt and questions of theology and apologetics. I didn't have it wasn't, that was about it. That's the only thing I thought, well, maybe it's, similar to broken heart syndrome, or, just wrestling with faith, or, no doctor told me otherwise. Nobody said, yeah, we know that you're involved in some kind of, national security experimentation, but nobody that never came across to me. It was on my own after the V2K and getting these little shots and zaps and all this kind of stuff, and the sleep and stuff, and then the people with the cameras and video and other target individuals know what I'm talking about. If you go through the whole gang stalking, at the time when you don't know what you're going through, you just know somebody's screwing with you and you don't know why. And like anybody, I was like, well, what did I do? And I knew I didn't do anything to anybody. Virtually I was nice to everybody. Um, Literally, I'm 50, and I just never hurt anybody. And it's arrogant to say that maybe, but it's pat myself on. I just knew I never hurt anybody. I did have a sensitive enough of a conscience to where if I ever thought I did, I would try to make it right. Or normally I would just know not to do it in the first place. Um, but it's like, I literally felt that for 30, 35 years. Started 15, 16, I broke my arm, separated my shoulder, and it started getting better. And I, started working out. It was during football. And within some months after that, then I started also getting these sharp jabs. Now, my rib cage was fine. This whole area was fine. It was all up here, that I got hurt. But for whatever reason, I started getting those jabs. And I just thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's stress from the psychological stress of theology and apologetics. And it's not like I had anybody else tell me anything else. I certainly, when I got from the hospital, nobody said, "Oh, by the way, we want your consent for something." That never happened. And it wasn't 35 years of pain, um, pain meds for 20 of those years. But I had to try different things before that, and didn't really work much except go home and have a beer. But it wasn't until I had, you know, B2K around 2015, 2016 when it started going through the walls, and you could hear, and you just know somebody's messing with you. I never thought it was anything. I didn't think it was the Lord or God or spirits or. Um, I just knew it was people using some kind of radio thing talking about me or to me, trying to get me to go downstairs, which was a garage that didn't belong to me. So if I did do that, I would have been breaking an entry. And I felt that's the only, but I didn't know why. I wasn't enemies with anybody downstairs or anyway. So that's what they'll try to do, get you to do something, break an entry, do something just to, investigate what that sound is and act weird, and then have somebody arrest you or, just that. Do something and then get you in trouble. And that didn't work. I did fall out of a window and have to learn to walk again. Now, I come from originally Dallas, Oregon, a very, very conservative, really. Oh, Chief Handler, how you doing? You're insane. Oh, I know. Yes. Oh, I got Chief Handler. I don't know if it's. They always say there's like one. There's not one Chief Handler. I don't know how many TIs we have in this world, but I think every fusion center probably has a or a couple chief handler. That's all they have. They could probably have their own. They probably go home and have their kids sign up and I'm chief handler, and you suck. Like SpongeBob SquarePants is gonna kick your ass after you. I mean, after years of this, it's not one chief handler. People are gonna try to say it's. I think it's just different fusion centers just handing it off. What's the other one? I'm doing better. Yeah, you probably are. I mean, you caused me to jump out of a window, and the cops are affiliated with the cops, and they're protecting you. And I was raised in Dallas as a conservative evangelical, taught that the police are good, watched a lot of Fox and CNN. But this kind of puts a different. I mean, I studied to be a pastor, a very conservative religious town, and that they would do this and cover it up for 35 years. Yeah, that's going to be a hard one to explain away. What the F are you talking? Anyway, they're trying to. Anyway, you guys can read it, I hope, on the thing, how to make you jump out a window. Anyway, how's that? Anyway, I'm not going to spend my time talking to them. Right? I guess they did. So they deserve a little credit. They can outsmart me at times. When this is every day for years, you just get used to a little bit. Some of it, you hate it, but they're always there. So I don't know if on the thing if they can see the chief handler after it's done, or the chat thing, but anyway. But literally 35 years, and it just is constant side pain, like literally right here underneath, right here, and 35 years of this, just double over. It feels like what you can imagine as a 16, 17-year-old or a 20-year-old, 25-year-old as sound like feeling like a heart attack. But then 10, 15 minutes later, it starts to ease up. And then, it might come back 2 hours later. It might come back the next day, or it might be fine for a couple days or even a week. But it wasn't 30 years, actually 35, till I was about 45, 46, when the V2K thing happened. And I realized this was directed energy weapons. This whole thing that I had to go through is with V2K and the jabs and the Havana syndrome. The same exact thing as what the FBI and CIA say that they're going through. It's Havana syndrome, but with us everyday regular people, they don't just do that. They do throw what is known military technology as V2K, voice to skull. And what is very little known is, this sounds even nuttier, but it's synthetic telepathy. Now, they are not going public with this, but when you have so many TIs out there going through this, it's kind of hard to keep a total cover on it, because they've done this too long. They've had enough people die or kill themselves from whatever. And there's just too many of us. We're still alive, and we now know what it is. So it's like if you research mind reading stuff, they'll talk about on 60 Minutes or something that they're starting to recognize symbols or little pictures on EEGs or EKGs or little, EEG technology, imaging, brain imaging, and these little symbols are starting to guess. And they are so far above this. They are, and it's funny. Do you really think our government's going to someday come out and say, hey, we finally have the ability to read your thoughts? Do you think they're going to do that? Do you think they're going to come out and say, we are this close from being able to read your mind? Aren't you excited? They're never going to do that. They're going to just keep on saying, oh, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. We can't do it. It might be decades off. But when there's so many of us having the same issues, the same synthetic telepathy, hearing those people V2K yapping, telling us what's in our we know objectively how nuts this sounds, but this is happening to quite a few of us, everyday normal people without psychological issues. It's just, we know what it is, and we've become the joke of the sheriff's department. Even if we've never gotten in trouble or had anything against sheriffs or pastors or politicians, we've always respected everybody, tried to be nice to everybody. They still did it to us. Hoping that we would just die and go away, and the embarrassment of what they did and are doing would just go away with us, but we're still alive. And they're not allowed to physically, no touch torture, they're not allowed to physically just have a rifle and just shoot us, because then that would come out and they would come back to them. And anyway, I keep on bringing back, this is about direct energy weapons, and that a lot of women now in Japan and in the United States are complaining of, I want to say Tatsuyatsu syndrome, but it's actually broken heart syndrome. And I think it's the same thing of what I went through 35 years. What happens is you get the side pain about right here, this boom, boom, you double over. You think it's a heart attack. Your doctors or nobody tells you anything different, because maybe they have never heard of target individuals or that people are direct energy weapons, but they've all heard of Havana syndrome now. So it's kind of difficult, but a lot of this, and they're doing a lot of it to women over the age of 40. But I just read an article, a lady who was 31 was getting this too, like a doctor or a nurse was getting the same thing. So they're not even trying to keep this in the same diagnostic areas, It's just, but you can literally go for years and get this heavy side pain that, because it's in this area, it hurts, and it's it's depressing because it's that part of the heart that if it's heavy, like a heavy heart, it's necrotic. It becomes almost necrotic dead tissue. Like the left ventricle becomes damaged. There's like, and it just becomes slightly damaged or just necrotic. And it feels like a painful, sad, not because of any objective, but just it feels heavy, like a sad pulling on that area of the physical heart. And because of its pain, you might get depression, you might get some sadness. But knowing what it is now, that it was directed energy weapons, and I was am still a guinea pig with this. But at least I know. And I hope that the men and women who might go through this, whether it's a direct energy thing, it's not just the heart. They can do this to your head, like Havana syndrome, massive headaches out of the blue, or maybe you've never had headaches, or just shots to your chest, your stomach, your leg, arm, just screwing with you. What is now known as, you'll see medications for tardive dyskinesia. That's a big one now on Fox and CNN. Tardive dyskinesia, getting these little jumps, these little, pulses out of these, now giving you medicine for something that's actually, the medicine might help, but if you're just being target practice for the military and for the sheriff's department, so they can see what works. And I don't know if there's life insurance involved, that it's like a STOLI, stranger-owned life insurance, or dead peasants life insurance, where some online life insurance where you don't have to actually, it's just anonymous strangers getting life and death insurance on people they don't even know. And then it's covered up by politicians and police, because where do you go if there's something bad, painful, illegal going on? I'm gonna go to the sheriffs, you go to the police, but if they know about it and they get paid for it, I mean, if you don't believe this is real, look at the White House 2011 or 2012 bioethics, 2011 or 2012 White House bioethics meeting. And the room is filled with other TIs complaining of the same thing, including voice to skull, hearing voices. There's some other ones you even talk about synthetic telepathy. A good book. One of the scientists that helped create it and regretted because he found out what it was is Dr. Robert Duncan. He's written 2 or 3 books. The Matrix, the first one, then Project Soul Catcher, and third one is How to Tame a Demon. And demon as in technology, evil technology. Now, I don't know if it's satanic. I just know it's evil. And they don't have to be Satanist. But one thing we know is that they're a bunch of capitalists. Now, there are good capitalists and there are good communists. There's good religious people and there's good atheist people. It's all about how they treat other human beings. And not just some of them. How do they treat generally all people? You can't have 98 people that you treat good and then 2 people that you just shit on all their life and torture. It's like Dennis Rader, the serial killer. You can't be nice and be president of the Lutheran Church or Assembly of God Church or whatever. You can't be the president of a congregation or Unitarian, doesn't matter. And then go off and murder people and be friends with City Hall or law enforcement. You can't be nice to 98% and then go off on your day job and torture and try to get people to kill themselves, the other 2 or 3 out of the 100%, like the 2 or 3 people who never did anything wrong to you. But evidently, they think it's okay. Now, I would encourage people to look at those videos or look at Ella Free on YouTube. A bunch of videos, interviews of other targeted individuals, including the Sacramento meeting in 2018 and in 2019 in Portland, Oregon. Groups of other targeted individuals coming together. They're both rallies and listening to other speakers to let them know this shit's real. And it's It just behooves me the idea that they do this. It's not like a drunk driver. They do something stupid, they get drunk, um, and murder somebody. This is different. That's an accident where otherwise good people can do something and mess up. This is them literally paying people to come in every day to torture you, to push a button on a remote control on their computer and send a zap to you, or to send something to you while you're sleeping, or to inject some kind of um, something to your mind. They literally are that far in their technology. It's not like they're just 6 months ahead of us and they're just releasing little tidbits, but they're pretty close where we're at, like with our internet. They are, when you have this, you start to realize how much they do from black budget programs. When you have V2K and synthetic telepathy and all this, you realize how much this is just what we know. They could be even miles beyond this. We don't know, but we know that they're covering this up. But it's getting out now. That's getting so much of an issue that on the news every few months they have to have Havana syndrome, because there's so many of us that's coming out that, and I really don't know how our conservative or religious towns, like the one I came from. I'm from Salem now. I'm in Salem now, but I came from a little all of our grade schools, Dallas, like Lyle, Oakdale, Whitworth, they all have vacation Bible schools in them. And there hasn't been some huge protest to take. I mean, that's what the type of town I'm talking about. Conservative, small government, the whole liberals are allowed, and humanists, but it's more or less really a religious town. And as long as you don't raise a huge stink or try to convert, but it's very extremely pro, it's just very evangelistic. um that's why I was surprised that they would, when it hit me that they were doing this to me in this town, and we're doing this for 35 years and nobody told me. And when I fell out the window after finding out after the V2K, and I still have that, in that since then, 5-6 years, nobody has still come up to me, nobody from that town or Salem, and said, what we're doing to you is wrong. You never deserved it. And some people will try to look back in their life after going through it. It's like, what did I, trying to find a reason. Um, I know for a fact I never did. I just never hurt anybody. But I know other people come from different backgrounds, but they literally do this to anybody. Um, and if you're going through this, or if you have these direct energy, these little shots and zaps to your heart, your head, seriously, there are some people who are target individuals who don't have V2K, and you still could be an experimental, just a guinea pig to see if this weaponry works. You don't have to have V2K. I have V2K synthetic telepathy, but a lot of target individuals are different. Some have this, some only have V2K, and some don't have direct. I think a lot of them do have direct energy weapons, D.E.Ws, DEWs, but a lot of them don't too. Anyway, there's a lot of good sites. There's also targeted in Massachusetts. There's PAX International, ICATOR, ICAT, ICAACT, um, People Against Covert Technologies. Ella Freed was really good. Dr. Matt Arnegard. Um, I know I'm forgetting some, but it's just there's a lot of different groups where people are affected by this microwave radiation, and that's what it is. It's the same thing as Havana syndrome that's hitting the FBI and CIA, and it's not just hitting them; it's affecting everyday real us people. That our own government. It's not Cuba or China. It's our own government doing it to us. And when you're a TI, you know it. You know it's your own government because they unfortunately bring sheriff's department in and they do these little things with the sirens and try to Get gang stalking a bunch of people out of the blue, holding up their videos and all this. Boy, I got the chief handler just going, "What the heck are you talking? What the heck are you talking about, John? I'm the only one watching. Yeah, you feel like a heart attack on your side. Well, I gotta read his. Well, evidently, I'm, chief handler's saying, it's called, schizophrenia. Of course, that's what they say. Chief handler despises the poor. Anyway, Mr. Beachwalker, don't worry, I didn't tell them it was for you. I don't even get that. So, yeah, it doesn't bother me. Anyway, you've heard about government waste. I mean, I'm sure they make money off this too, whether the life insurance. So it's not just torture for its own sake, because it's not fun doing this. It might have been fun the first couple times to torture, but when they're not getting the effects that they're wanting, me dead, and you dead if you're listening and if you're a TI, well, screw them. And the people in your town, I mean, when you have this, you definitely look upon the people in your town and city halls and sheriff's department. And I never had a problem with them, or the people in my town, I thought were pretty decent. I didn't have problems, and I didn't have any enemies. I didn't do anything, and I thought they really didn't do too much bad to me. I didn't think in all that time. I had two things: that constant side pain, and I worked as a CNA, and I was very good, and it was a good place for those years working, and then suddenly all that changed within a matter of a year, or a few months to a year, of all this weird behavior coming out. And I think that was 2015, 2016, because the first targeted individual meeting was the first Unity and Hope conference in Massachusetts, and that was for targeted individuals. And then there's 2018 in Sacramento, and then 2019 here in Portland. But literally, be aware that a lot of doctors don't know about this. A person could still be diagnosed with broken heart syndrome or massive headaches, migraine medicine, but it very well could be, um, you know, target individual stuff, direct energy weapons, or Havana syndrome. It goes by different names, but it's kind of the same thing. You're being tortured with microwave radiation. And at least one thing good is they're admitting now it's not a foreign government. Our own government is admitting, well, it looks like it's not China or Cuba. Yeah, it's our own USA. And unfortunately, they're even doing this to veterans. So all this, like 9/11, we will never forget stuff. Well, it was 18 years, and then Rand Paul decided out of the blue, oh, we should be concerned about our budget. Those 9/11 people, first responders, some of them had died, a lot of them had died, but they were saying we need more help. And Rand Paul decided, and I'm not anti-Republican or anti-Rand Paul, I was just surprised him out of blue suddenly cares about the budget. It's time to straighten the budget out. We can't think about this. There's Democrats that are just as, there's some good and bad in the entire, both Republican and Democrat. It used to be that you could, it's so capitalistic and so, I mean, look at COVID. They got the news of this COVID coming out that was coming over from China in January. And when they did get that note from the meetings from the Fauci and the president, nobody went to Twitter. Nobody went to, even Fauci is like, don't get masks, don't wear masks. There was no warning to anybody. Instead, they went to their stock market and traded everything to get more money. So let's be honest. They will claim to be this, claim to be that, but when it's like when you're a teenager, and what would you do if you had a superpower? Like if you could go back in time. Well, when they're I wish I could go back and kill Hitler. It's like, yeah, I would like to go back and kill Hitler. And it's like, well, sheriff's department, there isn't Hitler's, but there is a technology that is going to be used to enslave millions of people. It's starting out, we are the guinea pigs, and you're doing this to us. Many of us who had never hurt anybody, and you're still doing this to you. Hey, my friend Tanya. Hey, it's good to see you. Tanya, I got Chief Handler in here, and yeah, there's some other people in here. Beach Walker, the bust of Chief Handler. Let's see. Sorry for the bust on Chief Handler. Not something I would have said if a lady was in the room. Sorry. And then Mr. Mechanic. It's good to, and Dickerson, nice to meet you. And anyway, it's good to see you guys. And there's enough TIs out there. And now we don't know how many. I watched a video with Robert Duncan when he was talking to Tyrone Dew. And at first, Robert Duncan was saying, well, at first it was like 2,000 people that were initially. But then in his book on either Project Soulcatcher or How to Tame It, it was like just an intro or something. It's a lot more, like it could be the tens of thousands. You can hear those numbers, or it could be tens of thousands, or it could be, you listen to a Lighthouse and it could be millions. I mean, we really, you hear, Bill Binions, like anybody could be targeted. So number wise, we just don't know until people find out what TIs are, kind of have to self-diagnose. And a lot, if they have V2K, then they kind of know what it is, or at least can find out a lot easier. But if it's just directed energy, then it might take a while because they'll just think it's either psychologically stress caused or something else. Blame it on like Occam's razor, some physical normal. That's what most people would do. Well, it's because or somebody's mad at me because I didn't return a phone call or something. That's why they're trying to kill me. I mean, it's just we look for a reason, and any reason will do. And it's sometimes it's not vengeance. It's just they've been chosen randomly to be screwed over and tortured. And the United States and all of our leaders in City Hall decided, better you than me. I guess that's it. And that's where we just got to listen and, be thankful and help out with other groups that are trying to help us. So thankfully for them, and we actually can meet each other. So it's a shame that a lot of these leaders were just saying, better you than me, rather than admitting what we already know. We already know what's going on. It's not like there's a little doubt of, well, am I wrong, or could I be? I don't know. I just hope they admit. No, we know 100% when this is happening to us. There's not like a little bit of doubt, like, oh, I just hope they admit it. I mean, we already know. When you're doing this to us and we find out what it is, we're just aghast at your lack of character, your lack of integrity, your supposed religious character, your integrity, your family values, whatever you claim in front of a stage of people. We just say, what a crock of shit you are. We can see you. We can see you. You're torturing us. We know it. You know we know it. And we're just thinking you're just full of shit. Whatever religion or politics you are, tell me so that I can run the other way. Because whatever you are, we're going to run the other way. Because if this is the best example where nobody from your religion or your politics has any integrity and can admit out loud what we already know to be true, and you still won't do it, you'd rather hide behind and then complain and get mad at the people on Fox News or CNN. That politician, they don't have integrity because they screwed somebody. That was, that person didn't have enough religious integrity, or this because they screwed somebody, or said the F word or something. You're torturing us every day, torturing little directed energy weapons, V2K, synthetic telepathy. So you and your religion can go to hell if that's what it is. We don't want to hear it. We'd rather listen to a person with character and integrity. Find me those people that live their message, that have the honesty, that we know what we're talking about, they know we know, and they can at least come forward and say, yeah, we're fucking you over. You know it, and we shouldn't do it. And we should have done it a long time ago, but let's try to change it. Okay? It's kind of common sense. Because history books will be written about this. They already are. There's books, there's like 40, 50 books if you look on Amazon about this by people who are targeted. And it's like they're already written, and more is going to be written and still are being written today. So when they look at history books and how you guys did nothing, you know, the people who could do something against torture, it's like the Christian world will look upon this as the next Inquisition. And why did they, conservative or liberal, it doesn't matter, or the humanists, why didn't the secular humanists stand up and do something? I mean, let's get everybody in on this guilt trip, because all the people in on it that covered it up and are staying silent deserve the same. There are some good people out there, a lot of good people of faith that are good, and even good humanists, even good Buddhists, good Hindus, people of good character, period, that if they knew about this, they would get behind this and they would help us. So great to see you, Tanya. Tanya's great. I'm glad to see you. Alan, you're reacting right. 100. Thank you, Mr. Mechanic. I'm sorry I went on the spiel. I started not, Thank you, Tanya. Good advice. We know what's happening to our own bodies. The Mechanic, thank Alan, you're right 100%. It'd be different when it happens to them, Alan, and that's the thing. We're warning him, but they either don't believe it. It sounds too weird, but if it's like me, I don't get mad as mad as I should or thankful because I don't have polio. But if I did have polio as a kid, I'd be so thankful. But the people that are alive who did have polio and had to stay in those iron lungs, and they know what they were saved from. And it's like there's enough of us that are going through it. And, well, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a TI, then you know what I'm talking about. So you do. They couldn't handle they couldn't. And a lot of our own people haven't been able to. And that's the thing. And that's going to come out in the history too. Tanya, they seen the guy, them in the OZ live stream. Let's see. That in the OZ, I don't know what the OZ is. Oz. Can't remember his name. Big dude I don't know what that is. Big dude had a beard. They would cry like babies. That's for damn sure. They would be definitely, but they would listen to us TIs. I mean, it's kind of like, on one hand, it's like the Myron Mays and Aaron Alexis. None of us want that to happen, because the people that ended up getting hit by bullets and all that, they're innocent. Those were innocent people. That's why it's not, you understand that they want to bring attention to this huge issue. You do. You want to make sure you want to bring attention to this issue. But I don't know why I took this thing off. You want to bring attention to this issue, but you don't want to hurt, or paralyze somebody else who's just an innocent person either, because then we're no better than the people doing that to us. But some big thing that would, I'm glad that the FF Freedom for Target Individuals did those meetings. And I'm glad the ones they did in Washington, Chicago, and Sacramento, and Portland. And I think it's good to have these, or justice, sending us in the army they are sending in the army into nursing homes. I cannot believe what's happening in the USA. Yeah, it's all NATO. I saw one person in Israel that that has a YouTube from Israel, but I don't know if it's happening to too many Jewish people in Israel. I saw two people that it was going on from Saudi Arabia, but that's about the only ones I'd seen. Somebody had suggested it's mainly NATO countries. I there's Madrid, Poland. I don't know who all the NATO countries are, but I saw from different countries: Madrid, Poland, of course, the U.S., Japan. I've heard in China. Um, it's weird. They can't say, well, they're making this technology to protect us because this is going out to other countries too. So they're not doing it just to protect Americans or Australians. So it's in Australia, of course. I mean, quite a few friends. Well, you know, Tana. So biomedical research about money and life insurance. And SHP does a lot of research. It's beyond my ability or understanding. Thank you, Uncle John. Uncle John. I looked up your channel, Uncle John. The TI stuff. That was it. That was some stuff there. Cyber torture. Um, my Freemason neighbor wants my yeah. There's so much weird financial um, groups, and they're just a bunch. I mean, I'm not slamming capitalists. I think people have a right to have dreams and make some money, but money at the expense of daily torturing other people. Um, and then, I don't know if it's to blame what if it's one group. I know I came from a religious conservative town, and the main people in City Hall are just religious conservatives. There's probably some liberals, there might be some atheists, but that it would happen in a town like that, Dallas, um, and then follow me to Salem. There are good religious people. I mean, I've been raised with them and know them to be good. That's why it amazes me that something this horrible could go on without anybody telling me for 35 years. And then this stuff, the main stuff, the V2K, the jolts, the all that stuff happening 6 years ago. Not anybody from that town having any integrity, torturing every day. And while they're talking about drain that swamp, and it's like, what is worse than swamp money to torture an innocent person to death so you can get money for it? Talk about drain the swamp. They don't want it because that would be their swamp, their money. We are tested on TIs. Anyway, we all, I think if we're raised religious, we believe or hope that God will help us and give us some strength with it. And that's my own personal belief. I don't throw it out. I studied to be a minister myself, a Pentecostal minister, but I don't ever try to throw that at people. Other people can believe what is, works for them. Apologetics, that was my main field. That's what's interesting. That happened to my real mom, dad. Yeah, I remember that. Mechanic Tanya, they were hitting my wife in the head every single. Jim, try and get a helmet. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard they have a weird name, but they have this. If you look at PAX International, and it's free. I mean, you can buy the thing, but they will put it on their website, PAX International, and they will allow you to look. It's like, I don't know how many pages, but it's like 35 pages of different types of shielding, all the way from what works for most people, most TIs, to what has worked, what hasn't worked. You can buy it, but they also are wonderful enough to put it on so where you can look at it online. PAX International, and it shows shielding, and you can look it up, all the pages, to see what has worked for other people, depending where the direct energy weapons hit you, whether it's rubber or different metals, different types of metals, aluminum, tinfoil, and they even have this. I forgot the name of it, but this packing stuff that electronics puts in to protect electronics, but I forgot the name of it. But they have it on there, and it seems to be very helpful. And it's not crazy. It's not crazy expensive either. It might be, I mean, depending what people call expensive, but if something keeps you from being in pain, then 20 or 40 bucks is not so bad. I used to take OxyContin for 9 years, and if your insurance didn't kick in, that would be $500 a month. So it's like, it's just 18 years of that kind of, because my own religious town, decided to torture me and not tell me what was going on. So Anyway, there's a lot of good religious people, but I don't want to beat up on that. But to me, it's just right there every time, because with you have scrupulosity, kind of an OCD about religion, constantly thinking about this stuff, then it's like, really? That happened from these group of people in all these years, and 6 years they could have told me after that, after they know what I know. And I went to that meeting in Portland, and they still don't have the honesty or the integrity while they're chanting Drain the Swamp. It's just like, yeah, they say one thing, but when the cameras are off, let's go torture that guy, let him die. So sometimes you just have to laugh, get my teeth. So anyway, I got to go make some dinner for my mom. I always do this right before I make dinner for my mom, so she always gets off work around either 6 o'clock or 7. So, oh, I love you too. Thank you very much, guys. You guys are great, and thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Mr. Beach Walker. Thank you, mechanic. And even Chief Handler was here. Well, I talk to him all the time. I don't know if it's what he goes by, but if it's Chief, well, there's always a couple of them with B2K. So normally a guy and a gal. So, and they probably take shifts. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you in a day or so. And I take care. I hope you guys are doing good. And, there's a bunch of groups. Look at PAX International for shielding. You're welcome, mechanic. I am famous for busting on Chief Handler. Thank you, Beach Walker. Busting on Chief Handler. Cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to all of you. All right. I'll talk to you guys later, okay? I'll be thinking of you guys. And I'll try to think of something with better, just pointed issues that we have to deal with. So that's what I'll try to do. So I'll talk to you guys in a couple days, okay? All right. Bye, guys. Yeah, end stream. There